Hello everyone and welcome back to FTB Skies 2. It is episode 20 already, which is absolutely crazy, but we're here nevertheless, and it is Modern Industrialization Day. Now, I want to simplify MI as much as possible, especially just for myself, but also for others when watching this to say, oh, this is so much easier to do. So we're going to jump into that right away, which means I built a little section for it. Just a little area down here with some lights and some sheet metal, just above all of our reactors, and we have a little area that should fit all of our MI machinery. Now I will say there's still a lot of stuff to do in this mod, and I don't believe we'll get to it all in this episode. However, I think we should make some decent progress. And to start simplifying, we're going to start with bees. That means we're going to have to catch a lot of bees, to say the least, because we want both the monazite, the iridium, the titanium, as well as the beryllium bee spawned egg. All of these. We want all 4 of these bees, which means we're going to have to catch all of these bees here, which isn't too hard. We'll go with nest hunting for a second. I've also done 2 things. I've added budding ruby geores, which we're just turning into ruby dust immediately. And I've made a very simple salt factory down here with water above a beacon to make salt. And we have 1.9 million of it, just with a bit of AFKing. I also went ahead and turned on the pretty pipes texture pack from item pipes. So some of these bees are biome dependent, but these dark oak bees, as well as the dirt nest bees, can all spawn directly at our base in the plains biome. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to honey treat them all up a bit, let them sit here, and I have a catcher down with some bee cages, as well as a few range upgrades. And this should allow us to be able to catch these bees without having to actively be here, and we can go to other biomes to catch them manually. So when we come back, this catcher should have found some bees by then. Hopefully. We'll see. So if we first head over to the nether, because this is the easiest one, well, next to the end that is, and if we place, well, not off the island, if we place down the quartz hives, the nether hives, as well as the glowstone nests, with their respective items, we can fill them up. There's one guy. I need some cages, otherwise they will disappear on me. They already want to run away. They don't like their new owner. Find it bizarre. And then 2 glowing bees. Very, very simple. And then we'll head to the end, and we can actually just do it directly right here. No reason not to. And we got 2 of those. And then finally, we need to go find a swamp biome as well as a desert biome. 1,500 blocks that way for a swamp biome. Pretty ridiculous. Now let's just hope there's actually a swamp biome where we end up. And I have my mage block item. Oh, okay, we actually ended up in a swamp. Nice. Place down a few of those. And these guys just accept honey treats. And then we'll locate a desert next. 1,700 blocks this way. Okay, we got our ashy minings, and we got our chocolates. Perfect. I slap a bed down. I should be able to wake them all up. There we go. Come hither, bees. Let me collect you. Perfect. And that's the last one. There we go. And, hopefully, these guys got caught. So we got some ashy mining, some chocolates, a blue banded. Ooh, we didn't get the neon cuckoo bee this time. We only got 1 blue banded, which is unfortunate. I'm going to take all of these down, very simply. We grow ourselves a cherry tree right here. And with a few cherry hives down, we should be able to get what we're after. We just place a few honey treats in these guys for now. We are after the neon cuckoo bee. And the neon cuckoo bee decides to spawn itself inside blue banded bee nests when it's out of its cage. So what we're going to want is to remove this catcher. So the bees are still technically populating these cages. And we're only going to want this catcher to filter pick up the neon cuckoo bee, which, as you see, will lay its nests in nests belonging to blue banded bees. And blue banded bees are the only ones that can spawn in cherry nests, so it's perfect to just leave these guys there, and we'll just fill that in with cobblestone, and hopefully we get some neon cuckoo bees. But for now, we can do a decent amount of breeding with these guys here. So fun fact, we're actually missing a single bee, and that is the leafcutter bee. And I think it's because we tried spawning him in a plains biome, so I'm going to use a dirt nest right here, and that's a chocolate mining. We'll try again. Leafcutter, there we go. Yeah. He has to spawn specifically in a forest biome, which is fair. So I'm going to get rid of duplicates, because we only need the 1 for now. And let's start breeding some bees. So we're going to start with the monazite bee here, which requires both a magmatic and a coal bee to be bred. The coal bee requires magmatic and leafcutter, and that's why we needed the leafcutter just now. If I make myself some speedier upgrades, this will go in no time. There we go. That's more than enough. Whoa, stop. Now I need the 1. Okay, we're going to do 1 cage at a time so this doesn't overfill. And then we'll take a coal bee with a magmatic bee and get the one we want, and that is the sulfur bee. Now the sulfur bee is very simple. we take some monazite dust and right click it on, potentially. Oh, okay, that doesn't work. Fun fact, the sulfur bee, which has now gone over here, can only accept this modern industrialization block of monazite, which is not available. That is bizarre. While I wait for an answer for the monazite bee, we're going to go ahead and make the diamond bee here. So first we need a redstone bee, which is glowing plus chocolate. So with a blue banded and redstone bee, we can make ourselves a single lapis. And then with the lapis bee, we take an ender bee and make a diamond bee. Very, very simple. Now with this diamond bee, we're going to do a few different recipes, I believe. But the first one is the slimy bee to get emerald bees, which we're actually going to need a lot of. And that's mainly because these emerald bees we're actually going to squish. And the reason we're squishing them is because we want the emerald bee spawn eggs that we can get from these. So we want the gene sample emerald. So we're actually going to need quite a few emerald bees to do that. And we actually got 3 emerald gene samples, which is amazing. So if you've never made bee spawn eggs before, you combine a type 100% productive bees with a honey treat. Now we have 3 100% treats. And what we do is we pollinate them into eggs directly. And I don't want them to be dispensed. That was really bad. That was really bad. I did not want that. I should have turned off the dispenser because now we have to do this again. We have to get another spawn egg. So yes, make sure your dispenser's off when you're doing this. And hopefully we get another 100% here in no time. There we go. Okay, one more 100%. And we'll make sure to turn the dispenser off this time. There we go. And that is our 3 emerald bee spawn eggs. And that is because 3 emerald bees in an electrolyzer will give you your beryllium bee. Now, technically we can't do this yet as we haven't got into an electrolyzer, but it is something we're going to save for later. Now on to the titanium bee. This requires, well, the diamond bee we just made, as well as an iron bee, which is ashy mining plus crystalline. That made an aluminum bee. I want an iron bee, that's copper, that's iron, there we go. And that'll give us our iron bee, once again, iron plus diamond will give us titanium, and we'll collect one of those. And then the iridium bee is the last one, which is the neon cuckoo bee as well as crystalline. And this will give us our iridium bee, and we've captured one. A neon cuckoo bee is in this nest. Now we just have to wait for him to make his exit, and we can snatch him up. So I'm actually going to sleep, so it turns to daytime, and then that guy leaves. And if we head on down, surely he should pop out any minute now, potentially. You know what? I can actually just turn the catcher on, and that'll just catch the neon cuckoo bee when he decides to make his exit. And I just saw him actually get caught, so he should be in here. Neon cuckoo bee, there it is. Now our goal is the vacuum freezer. And that might seem daunting, but it's really not that bad. I've added all the recipes in, and this is everything we're going to need. So it may seem like a lot of microcrafts, and which it is, but we're going to set up the passive system for all of these so that we are set in the future and we don't have to worry. Now the best way to do this is just set a bunch of drawers down and have, well, no stack upgrades, so you have 2,000 of each on hand at all times. And these guys are all really simple to make. Most of the recipes either use a cutting machine, a wire mill, or a bending machine, or a compressor. So it is actually really, really simple to make. Now, we've only done one thing in modern industrialization so far, and that is make synthetic oil. And that was simply by placing a bronze boiler down with steam into both a steel mixer as well as a steam blast furnace with an output. This guy made us synthetic oil, which we then used to make rubber sheets, and those made rubber seeds. So we have plenty of rubber. This is very basic modern industrialization. Bronze boiler makes steam, steam goes in, we make crude oil into synthetic oil on this side. Very, very simple. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to repurpose this guy immediately. So if we head down to where we made our synthetic oil earlier, all we're going to do is set an export bus for both water and coal into this guy, and that'll be perfect forever. And then into the steel mixer here, we're going to do a crafting card for tin and lead dust. And it would help if we had some lead dust to begin. There we go. And as long as those two are in there, this should be fine. And we will get solder and alloy as an output. And if we place down a framed drawer and set the output to this end, what this will do is it will automatically input solder and alloy into here. And what I'm actually going to do is just turn off the auto pull for this guy for just a second, just so we can lock this guy and then link it to our system. And then with auto pull on, it will automatically pull out. And this is a very simple solder and alloy setup. And slowly but surely, this framed drawer here will fill up with solder and alloy. So we'll lock that and add it to our system. And we now have an infinite solder and alloy setup. Very, very simple. You could do an electric blast furnace for this, but it is just I don't know, it's very simple to set this up and have it just passively run forever. Just a very small steel boiler, steel mixer, and that thing is good to go. However, it is very loud, and I'm going to mute the mixer because of it. But yeah, it will just slowly work, and we'll be good to go. Now for actual automation, we're going to need a few different machines. So I'm going to make myself 1,000 analog circuits, and let's say 1,000 electronic circuits as well. Why not? Make it easy. And those guys will just slowly craft, thanks to mechanism. So before we can actually jump into that, the first thing we're going to need is a steel alloy smelter, and this will allow us to make battery alloy ingots with both lead and antimony. And this guy uses steam, so temporarily what we're going to do is we're just going to slap him down here, and if we take our wrench and go from this center block here, we can add him into the system. And slowly but surely that will make us, well, antimony. Now one thing I will say is if you have a good productive metalworks setup, say multiple foundries, like a lot of foundries for that matter, you can actually use casting tables and casts to automate a lot of different things. I won't be going this method. I think the modern industrialization method of just stocking about 2,000 of everything in drawers and then having it craft as a need be is just a lot better in my opinion, but everyone's valid to their own opinion, and we're just getting some more things set up here, just making sure I have all of the recipes made up for all of these machines here. A lot of them require the microcrafting, like the copper wires, the tin cables, the steel rods, pistons, which is more steel plates, steel rods, and steel gears. And for this, we're just going to smelt up a bunch of steel, just slap a lever above the foundry drain, and we're just going to make a bunch of steel gears this way, as they are very useful. Now we can also do this for the rods as well, but I don't mind making those in the foundry tab over there, especially with the fact that we have so much steel that I can just do this in our forge hammer for a bit and not worry too much. But this way I don't have to microcraft the gears themselves. I'm going to craft up 65,000 steel. We're probably going to need it anyways. Okay, for some reason I had my ultimate infusing factory here messed up. It's supposed to be 24 speed, 32 energy. I had 32 speed and 24 energy on accident. So nothing was crafting. I was wondering why this number had changed in a while, but that should fix it. Our 50,000 industrial aluminum is also almost done, which is actually really nice. Now while we wait to be able to craft everything manually, we're just going to be using the forge hammer, which isn't ideal, but it does get the job done, and it is quite simple to do, just takes a bit of time. Now I will say one of the funniest things you can do is use a stone cutter to make copper wires, and I believe you actually might be able to make some more wires in this guy as well. But it does ease the access of having to make a steel wire mill early in the game. There we go. I've gone ahead and added the recipes in for all of these guys. So by all means, I should be able to craft these guys up by all means. Oh, you know what? We actually do need battery alloy, and this can only be compressed and bended. Technically, we can use the compressor twice, and we're probably going to do that, and only because it will be easier for right now. So we'll make ourselves a steel compressor and then take our battery alloy down. Once again, we're just going to hook this up to our current steam production. Have a little bit of a mangled mess down here. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. There we go. So we'll throw a steel compressor in here, make up some battery alloy, and like I said, once again, we will have all of this automated eventually. It just takes a bit of time to get it all set up. And we'll take our newly acquired stuff. And now, by all means, if I go ahead and make one of each of these, we can make a wire mill, a cutting machine, a compressor. Let's see if we can do them all. Vending machine. Can we make the mixer? Yes, we can. Perfect. So I will say this does actually skip technically all of the quests here. A lot of this we should have technically made by all means, but we kind of skipped through it all, which I don't mind. So the last thing we actually have to automate for some of these machines to work is lubricant. And lubricant is pretty easy to do. All you have to do is mix either creosote, naphtha, or plant oil atop of redstone. We're going to go with naphtha since we already have it automated. We could do creosote if we just make an advanced coke oven and use our coal geoore shards. This is a possible recipe, but we already have 43,000 buckets of naphtha, so I don't see a reason we shouldn't use that to make lubricant. So I'm going to make a mixer specifically for this. So if we take our magic down to here, and I think we'll go with the machine automation on this side. The first one I'll start with, very simple, like I said, is we'll just do an electric mixer. Now all this guy is going to do is have an exporter tell it to bring redstone as well as naphtha into it. And this is how we're going to power everything pretty much. We're just going to have an exporter go into said machine and then have the drawer below it. In this case, this is going to be a fluid drawer. And if we set the output with a shift right click of a wrench, we're going to auto eject the fluid output, and that's it. I just got to set this up to 82 and then set up a bunch of different machines. Most of them will be regular drawers, but it is to make steel rods, copper wires, aluminum blades, all of this stuff. And then we'll have some assemblers to make things like the gears, which will use our solder and alloy, so we don't actually need to automate bolts. It just saves on some time, as bolts won't be used as they are replaced by solder and alloy in all recipes. So once again, the rotors and all that, everything will, all of the bolt recipes will be replaced to make automatic stuff like this. So once again, so this is all the setup's going to be. It's just going to be mixer, fluid drawer, and then export bus. So that means I need to set up another wireless terminal. Now, the one thing that I'll say is really nice about MI is they do accept RF as power. And as you see, this efficiency bar here is going to fill up slowly but surely. And we're going to need some upgrades in this guy. I think a single diamond upgrade will be enough lubricant. Potentially, 380 buckets. Let's go with 2. How much does that give us? That gives us 4.6 thousand buckets, which should be plenty of enough. I don't want to use all of my naphtha, as I will be steaming this and then taking that and distilling it to get a bunch of things here, which we'll be using for late game MI. But for now, this is all we need. Now, basically, the setup is get all of these guys set up. So we're going to make a bunch of drawers, a bunch of machines, a bunch of export buses, and we're going to have fun. So the first thing we're going to make is 15 more wire mills, which sounds insane, but we're going to have to do it. And I should already have a wire mill, do I not? Did I place one down? No, I haven't. Oh, we're going to need 16 wire mills. So one more. Oh, we did have a wire mill. That's what I thought. And yeah, unfortunately, we have no way to get that back. But for now, we're going to place down 16 wire mills. So if we line this up, we can go to right here. If we make our frame drawers, like I said, we're going to line it up directly right here. And we're going to do 4x4 all the way up. Now, I will say, once again, I could do these with interfaces, which would allow me to use applied flux to set them up. However, I just haven't set up applied flux yet. And, well, since I haven't done it, there's no point in doing it now, which is a dumb notion, but we're going to keep it that way. But it would be a lot easier because then we could interface from the back, or even soul surge from the back, and then have interfaces here, and this would all look a lot nicer. But for now, we're just going to do it this way. I left enough room on the ceiling specifically for my stupidity. Now, some of these won't be filled immediately. For example, the superconductor, the canthal, and the cooper nickel, and annealed copper. None of these we can do yet, but they will be reserved for the spaces later. But like I said, we're going to do 2,000 of each one of these. And I think I should have enough with 128 channels down here. But we might need another wireless connector later. But I think 128 channels should be enough if we play this smart. Because yeah, these hold 128, which is just absolutely insane. And we're a network engineer now. Yeah, we just haven't set up that many cables. So now it is to set all of these up to their recipes and set up the exports. And then we'll be done for wires, and then we move on to the next one, which most likely will be rings, then rods, gears, blades, all of the fun stuff. But yeah, this is all we're going to need for wire mills specifically. So somehow I've missed 3 of these guys. I'm not entirely sure how. I will figure it out once stuff starts flowing in, but for now, all of these guys are set up, and well, they just need to be connected to power now, like so. And that should start working potentially, except it's not, because it's not connected to power. That is crazy. I was going to say, everything should start working immediately, except it's not connected to power, so it wouldn't. So if we connect it up, we'll hear the wire mill start roaring in the background, which is a crazy noise, so we're going to go ahead and mute that immediately. But as you see, this guy is making copper fine wire. This guy here is making, what's this? Steel wire for us. What's steel wire even used for? Nothing. We have absolutely no use for steel wire, but we have it now, and that's what matters. Is we have steel wire. Wow. Okay. Well, we have it, and there's just no reason not to have only 2,000 of it in stock at all times. So I don't mind that much, to be honest. And I'm telling you right now, one of the ones we missed is copper wire. So, copper plates. Oh, these guys are filled with acceleration cards. That's not going to be too useful, is it? Same with you. Anyone else? Oh, you're also filled with acceleration cards. Very simple misclicks. Okay, there we go. So we have copper wires going in, we have that, and we have those. A good start, to say the least. Now, I don't want to link all of these guys up just quite yet, as I do want them to all filter through, and then we'll lock them as we need them. So we'll lock these guys and then link them to the system. And that's basically the premise we're going to take with all of the machines here. Now, like I said previously, there is some of this stuff you can set up with Productive Metalworks. However, we're going to go full MI and just set up passives for all of them. So very similar to how these wire mills are all set up, we're going to set up all of the other machines. So that means plates, that means rods, that means bend plates, all of the stuff we're going to need. We're going to passive here behind us. Hopefully it doesn't take me too long to set these guys up. I'll let you guys know what the total time was, and then I'll start hiding the cables most likely, and we'll see how it looks in the end. So a quick cut for you guys, but a big cut for me. And that is all of the plates done. Well, I say all, but that's not genuine. There's a few left, like Canthol, we have Cooper Nickel, Chromium. Actually, we did Chromium, but annealed copper and all of those guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a space in between here, maybe 2 spaces, depending on how many more we have, just because it is a lot of compressors to craft. These are the ones we basically need. There's a few things up here, like I said, the chromium, silicon ingots, stainless steel, as well as titanium, which we haven't set up the beast for yet for some reason. The rest of them are all roaring and going, and like I said, we'll have 2,000 all linked up eventually. And our wires, in the meantime, have all finished up. We have 2,000 of each, and then for some reason we don't have copper yet because the copper plates haven't been hooked back up to go recursively. It's going to be a lot of work, but if you watched my Neotech series, you know I've passived everything in modern industrialization to this point. Well, except I guess the finale never came out because of the lost footage. Sorry about that, but we should be fine. Oh, you know what? This was never linked. I was like, why isn't it bringing it into our system? Because I never linked the aluminum. Now, I just have to auto-export all of these, like so, and this should be all I need to do. Oh, you know what? I do need to set a crafting card in one of these specifically. What is it? The bronze, right? Yes. I need to tell my system to make bronze to actually make the bronze rods. And that should make it in 2 seconds. There we go. Awesome. So as you see, all of the plates are filled up except for Invar. Invar, we are making very slowly through the foundry controller here. It is quite the setup. I have this being exported on round robin for nickel and iron. I guess we could throw acceleration upgrades in there. It doesn't really affect it. We have molten Invar being advanced piped out into a casting table, which gets exported back into our system, and then the lava obviously is just imported manually as well. This isn't the best setup, but I did want to show off the fact that you can use a foundry for, well, automation, and you could use multiple foundries for multiple different automation tiers. In this case, we're doing Invar, and we have enough nickel and iron to make Invar for the next century if we really wanted to. But other than that, most of these plates here are done. Some of them are taking a bit longer than others, like the lead, and then all of the wires that we have are also done. And then these rods will fill up, and the next one we're going to do is probably rings. But if I go ahead and link all of these guys up, the rest of them should be linked. Yep, perfect. And we say, oh, we want a vacuum freezer. Let's see how close we are. We're pretty close. We need some silicon dust. We need the aluminum bolts, which technically we don't because we're going to be using the rotor recipe. So that's null and void, but we need to do curved plates and rings. So we're not too far off. Okay, it's not been too long, but we've got all of our bending machines and rods set up. I'm not sure last time I cut in, but yes, we have all the rods and all of the bending machine set up. So that's all of our rings and curved plates, which means we are pretty much done. Like, this is everything we need. If I go into this and say I want a vacuum freezer, all I need now is silicon dust and to set up our rotor recipes inside of the assemblers. So that means we're just going to set up rotor recipes with assemblers, and then we are pretty much done. Like I said, there's going to be a few more plate recipes behind me. That's why I left that space. Other than that, this monstrosity of machines is pretty much done, and we're just making a bunch of battery alloy over here and then placing it inside the compressor and then making battery alloy for now. But then I will automate that further down this line eventually. But for now, I just want to get the vacuum freezer done. I want to use that as the milestone, and then we'll kind of just backtrack a slight bit to finish the rest of the machines off. But as soon as we're able to get this vacuum freezer up, I'll feel like I have accomplished something, and we won't be using it right away as we don't have argon or helium set up yet, but that will be for the next episode. Like I said, we'll backtrack, but I did want to get all of the basics and fundamentals done. So this stuff here, and as well as our bees and new geodes and stuff. And then we will set up next episode the rest of the stuff, but I want to get all the fundamentals for modern industrialization done. And that's all of this. So I'll be back in a bit, and then we'll have the rest of it done. And then we can get the vacuum freezer up and running. Or I guess kind of just sat there and wait for the next episode, that is. One thing I will point out that is very important when setting up your assemblers is lock your recipes, right? So if just by shift clicking a recipe in, it will lock the rotor to that exact thing. So for this guy, we're going to lock the bronze rotor into it. And this just makes sure that your items don't overclog. So for example, bronze rings would fill up all 9 of these slots immediately without second thought because, well, we have so many bronze rings, but we are crafting these on the fly. We don't have a packer to automatically set these up. We could do that by all means, but we just have them being crafted by AE2 as it is the exact same recipe. There is no loss doing that. And while we have a quantum computer that can craft multiple recipes at a time, so like I said, I'm not too concerned. But yeah, just going ahead and locking all of these guys is super important. And like that, we can actually just go ahead and hook this back up to power or to the system. And all of these should start firing. There we go. Perfect. And then we'll come down here, link them all up like so. And we're going to mute those assemblers. But as you see, all of the stuff we have automated so far is linked to our system. Now, we are 99.9% done with all of this stuff here to make our vacuum freezer. However, if I went to go request one, the only thing we're missing now is the silicon dust. And unfortunately, silicon dust requires us to do a few more things. Now, silicon itself is a byproduct of both the electrolyzer emerald and electrolyzer lapis dust recipes. You can also make it in an EBF at a Canthal tier with both silicon dust and carbon dust. We will be doing this as we do have the silicon essence in plenty, but for now, until we get a Canthal tiered EBF setup, we don't even have a copper nickel one. Until we get to there, we're going to be using the emerald dust recipe as it takes 20 seconds versus 120. Now, the reason we set up salt earlier, as I showed with the jars, is because we're going to be needing sodium batteries later on, and we're going to be using the salt in to get chlorine. So we're sodium batteries and chlorine. The chlorine will be used to make hydrochloric acid. A lot of fun different things later on in the pack, but for now, we've got to worry about this stuff in front of us. Now, copper nickel itself is pretty straightforward. We're just going to lock this alloy smelter to, well, copper and nickel. Pretty obvious, and that'll get us copper nickel. If I stick this in our system, it should automatically turn into plates, potentially. Did I set up copper nickel? I did not, and that is why we left the space for plates. If I make another compressor, and there we go. And that should make us copper nickel wires down here. Perfect. Okay, we have it all set up. Nice. So I'm going to need some machines that aren't fully automated. Like, this one's always going to be making lubricant. That's part of our wall of whatever this is now called. But I'm going to need a spot where we just have machines, and I think this area here will be reserved for that. We're going to be using a polarizer on demand instead of a polarizer to craft 24/7. So for now, we're just going to do a pattern provider. And that's mainly because there's only 2 recipes here we're going to be polarizing. Now, technically speaking, we could polarize magnetic steel rods. That's just going to take way too long. We can actually craft these. These 2, however, need to be polarized, so we're going to leave them. But yeah, we're just going to set these as recipes for the polarizer to take care of, that is. And if we auto export upwards like this should work by all means. We'll do something janky like that. And if I say I want, well, what is it we want? We want magnetic, right? So the recipes are showing up. And by all means, I should be able to say I want my smelter. No, alloy. Don't have a recipe for it. It would help if we made a recipe. So now with this guy set up, I should be able to simply go and say I want my electric alloy smelter. And that's missing copper nickel wire. Why? Oh, you know what? It's actually not connected to the system yet. That would be why. Very simple fix. Now, if I want to make my alloy smelter, it's going to craft in the polarizer here. And with power, that should get to work. And that is very loud as well, so we're going to go ahead and mute you. Perfect. And that should auto-export upwards. Amazing. And we are now good to go. Now, basically what I'll do is I'll just say I'm going to make... What's the use of this guy? This guy's pretty using a decent amount of things. The electrolyzer, blast furnace, EBF. Yeah, you know what? I'm just going to say make me 100 of these, and that'll bring the efficiency up, and it'll be pretty good for us. These guys are almost all done already, which is absolutely crazy. The only thing we're missing is soldering alloy, I think. Yeah, the soldering alloy has completely emptied out, but having over 1,000 of all the rotors already is absolutely insane, to say the least. So I'm not too worried that soldering alloy will catch up, and then we'll have 2,000 of all of these, and then, well, plenty of soldering alloy by the time we tackle MI again in the next episode. And we're going to want 2 of these guys, I believe, because we're going to be using one for battery alloy, and then one for copper nickel. I don't think we have another use for one at the moment. You know what? We might switch over to Invar in these guys as well, just because it would probably be easier than our current setup. And now we have battery alloys being made, the curved plates, as well as the plates themselves. Awesome. Everything is automated now. We have copper nickel, we have battery alloy. Everything is a go. So I don't need to worry about these guys anymore to make Cooper nickel, to say the least. I can turn that off. I'll let that finish up for what it's worth, but we don't need it, technically speaking. And we don't need that compressor anymore. So now everything is fully automated that we have available to us. There'll be stuff like stainless steel, titanium, iridium, and stuff. Like, we do have raw titanium, but the only way to get titanium ingots is through a Canthal electric blast furnace, and then we need to, well, vacuum freeze it. But yeah, everything is automated now, so by all means, I should be able to make myself an electrolyzer. Oh, you know what? The battery alloy plates have to catch up first. Oh wait, no, they're caught up. Wait, why aren't you in the system? There we go. Okay, are you in the system? No, you're not. That should be fine now. So with our electrolyzer, what we can actually do it is change our electric bee, or our emerald bees that is, into the beryllium bee. And then we can start producing beryllium. And there we go, we have now a beryllium bee. So if we place this guy down, feed him a queen treat, or one of our own queen treats that is, which is just these 3 traits. And if I place the rest of the bees down as well, I can go ahead and soup them all up. And we've already set this guy up here to do both the iridium and antimony bees. So we'll do iridium, antimony, and let's say beryllium in there. And then we'll do the titanium bee up here for now. Not too big of a deal. However, we don't actually have a beryllium block for that guy to feed on. Now, I've already made 300,000 emerald dust in preparation since we have so many emeralds. And what we're going to do is just export the emeralds in very simply and grab ourselves a 4x4 drawer. So once this runs out of emeralds, I mean, I just don't really care at that point because this will be more than enough. So I'm not going to throw a crafting card in there. This should be more than enough emeralds to last us forever. So that'll give us both beryllium dust, industrial aluminum, and silicon dust. The silicon dust is what we're after. We're going to auto export the items. And I guess we're going to have to deal with the fluid, I think. I'm going to speed this guy up. I'm almost positive if we run out of space for oxygen. Yes, okay, it does absolutely stop. How can I get rid of this easily? You know what? We're going to entangle it. Now, this isn't the best solution by any means, but if I grab a fluid trash can and entangle this guy, we're just going to hop down here directly underneath, and we're going to be getting plenty of oxygen later, so I don't really care about voiding this one specifically. You know what? Actually, we're not going to void it. We're just going to stick it in a fluid drawer. It doesn't hurt. There we go. We're just going to do it like this. And we'll throw a void upgrade in there, and then we'll just link it to the system. That should be plenty fine enough space. Like that should be more than enough space, to say the least. And that's not auto-exporting for some reason. Why not? Oh, there we go. Okay. Very simple. Link this to the system. Lock it up. How did that end up in there? What is that? There we go. Okay. Not sure what that was. It looked like bronze almost. Not sure where that was coming in from. Everything should be fine here. Yeah, everything looks good. But yes, this will get us the sodium dust we need, so we can actually finally do the entire plan that was today, which is muting this, first of all. And what is actually our plan, like I said, is making the vacuum freezer. So we're missing battery alloy plates. Of course we are, because this hasn't caught up to this guy yet, because this is still absolutely going. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. There is efficiency misplay here, and we could improve this by putting machine halls inside of here, adding upgrades. There's a lot of ways to improve the speed of this guy here, but for now, all we're going to do is just tell it to speed up manually, and that should provide us with more than enough. Yes, we have 140 extras now. Perfect. So like I said, vacuum freezer acquired, and that instantly crafted. Now, to actually use one of these, we're going to need some frost-proof casing. In this case, I believe it's 34. Oh, we don't have industrial aluminum gear set up as a recipe. That's easy enough to do. And if I just make a recipe for this guy, it should be fine. So if I make 34, wow, we're missing aluminum bolts. I was so close. I figured that would be enough. Unfortunately, it was not. We'll just speed this guy up again. And you know what? We're just going to make 2 stacks while we're here. There we go. Easy solution. So let's make 34 casings. And I'm probably going to do multi-blocks on this back corner here. So we'll have our EBFs, depending on how many we have, most likely 4 set, maybe 8, depending. I'm not entirely sure. But for the vacuum freezer itself, I think I'm going to go right here with it. And if we just slap one of these down, I think it's this block here. Yes, it is. Okay, perfect. So hold the wrench in your offhand, and you can see the layout for the multi-block very simply. Oh, it was 33 we needed, not 34. I was 1 off. But that is a solid vacuum freezer done. Fantastic. Now, it did require a bit of work, and to be honest, it's not that bad. Like I said, doing modern industrialization Sure, it requires you to preferably passive everything, but you can run it like we are doing back there with the electrolyzer. That's not the electrolyzer, that's the polarizer. You can do it with the polarizer, like I said, and just have everything on demand craft, but in all honesty, setting up a passive wall like this, sure, it's a bit of upfront effort, but then you never have to worry about any of it ever again. And like I said, if you are jumping into MI at around a similar time in the pack as I am, or even just at the point where you have infinite resources, this is a really, really simple process to do with applied energistics and MI. Now, like I said, there's a few better ways to do this. We could soul search them and use applied flux with interfaces to export all of our goods. That would be so much better, but the way we're doing it is also fine. But for now, that is where we're going to leave it off. We got our silicon set up, we have our lubricant set up. We are definitely going to make a better method to get soldering alloys set up in the future, but for now, this setup is probably fine, and genuinely, if I leave it overnight, it'll probably fill up a decent amount, and well, we're going to have all 2,000 rotors anyways, so it's not too big of a deal. But nevertheless, guys, I'm going to wrap up the episode there. I hope it wasn't too confusing, and I hope I did explain my thought processes enough so that you guys understood alongside me, but we did get our arbitrary goal of getting a vacuum freezer. Now, technically speaking, the vacuum freezer is as far as we need to go into modern industrialization. I personally am aiming for the replicator, but this is technically all you need to do. And even then, you don't need to do MI, as you can make cryofluid through this mixing recipe, but for us, this is how we're going to make it, and that's simply going to require argon and helium. Argon is simply liquid air in a centrifuge, so that's a very simple recipe. And then helium, well, we're going to be getting from monazite dust. Now, like we showed before, the monazite B wasn't working right now. I've asked the devs if monazite is supposed to be able to be right-clicked onto the B. It flowers this one, but it can't be right-clicked on. Unfortunately, it's only the MI block. So this is potentially not a valid recipe, but to get the helium, we're going to be centrifuging monazite, as we're going to be needing neodymium, yttrium, and cadmium later on anyways. However, the other way about going to get monazite is by doing a monazite geode, which in an electric mixer with helium, in diamond dust, and void crystal, you can get the geode monazite. And hopefully by next episode, we do have an answer on the monazite B. There's a chance that we just spawn one in case the recipe is planned to be added in a new update. But if it's not, and that is intentional, we will go the geode route. Nevertheless, enough yapping. I'm going to wrap up the episode there. Like I said, I hope it wasn't too confusing. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below or join the Feed the Beast Discord in the description. There's plenty of people that can help you there. If you liked the video, leave a like, I really do appreciate it. And if you don't want to miss any future uploads, as this series is close to wrapping up, hit that subscribe button. And one last thing, go vote in the community tab on the poll for the next pack we're going to play. It's either we play Reclamation, which is a modern take on the Regrowth mod pack from 1.7, or we play Divine Journey 2. So go ahead and make sure you vote on that poll, as it will decide what we play after Skies 2 wraps up in a few episodes. We're not too far away from the end of the pack, so I hope you guys have enjoyed this series, and we will be finishing it up soon. Nevertheless, I'll catch you guys next time. Bye bye!